Right now, let's talk to my next guest. He's Director of Popular Conservatism, and he's Mark Littlewood. A very good afternoon to you, Mark.
Good afternoon, Julia. Good to be with you.
Well, look, let's start with this net zero story. And it comes on the day that we announced that we've seen an announcement from the government that solar panels will be required to be built on all new homes as part of Labour's net zero push. I mean, I don't really have a problem with all new homes having solar panels, as long as, I think, they all have to have heat pumps as well. I don't think that's going to work out quite as well for people when they don't actually heat people's homes as they need in the winter. But do you think this is the beginning of the end of net zero policies for every party?
It's unravelling pretty fast. Obviously, Ed Miliband remains a true believer. I suspect that the government will continue to pretend that it's heading towards net zero, whilst not actually being willing, quite rightly, to embrace the policies that would get us there.
Yeah.
By the way, Julia, I'm not in favour of mandates to put solar panels on houses or to have heat pumps or anything else. I'm confident that over the due course of time, but in an unpredictable way, technology will solve this problem.
I'm with you.
In 100 or 200 years' time, we're not going to be reliant on petrol or fossil fuels particularly. They will be a redundant sort of fuel source. A bit like coal is not a major part of our fuel mix now. But what I don't want is the government pretending that they've worked out what technology it will be.
Yeah.
Maybe it's solar. Maybe it's wind, maybe it's better small modular nuclear reactors, maybe it's shale gas, maybe it's a technology we haven't thought of yet, maybe somebody will eventually crack nuclear fusion. Let the market decide this, not some housing minister giving mandates.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. And again, I'm always fascinated by the sort of green lobby's lack of faith in human ingenuity and technology when what's happened since the Industrial Revolution onwards has been one amazing big miracle of human ingenuity and technology. Our ability to solve problems is what makes human beings unique in the animal world. And yet, uniquely on this, no, can't solve it. No, we're the victim of the planet. We just have to go backwards and go back. I mean, and again, people need to understand this is what it means. It means rolling back the Industrial Revolution. It doesn't mean suddenly living in this green revolution where everything's going to be lovely and nice, and but we're not going to have fossil fuels. It means not having reliable fuel, and that means not having heating and electricity, being able to get on a plane, being able to drive a car, being able to have abundant food, being able to have medicine. People need to understand what it actually means.
Yeah. I mean, what particularly irks me as well, Julia, is that if reducing carbon emissions is, one of your top priorities, one of your key things you care about, well, we've made unbelievable progress.
Yeah.
I mean, we have more than halved carbon emissions since the 1990s. You might sort of understand the hardcore greenies if, I don't know, carbon emissions in Britain had doubled or trebled.
But we partly did that by, if you make energy so expensive and planning so difficult that you actually, and regulation on companies so much, that actually people take their manufacturing overseas and they close down their factories. It's amazing how much less fossil fuel you need. I mean, we basically, if you deindustrialise, you decarbonise.
Sure. But therefore, I would find it more rational if you had coal miners and oil workers throwing things over paintings in art galleries and blocking the road because things are going against them. I don't understand why the Greens are complaining. Everything has gone in their direction enormously.
Well, Just Stop Oil say they've achieved all of their aims.
Yeah, quite. So what these people are protesting about, it should be people who work in fossil fuel industries who should be screaming mad about them losing their livelihood. So we've got everything back to front. And look, if I could click my fingers and for absolutely no cost get Britain to carbon net zero by 2050, I'd probably do it. I mean, I think it would have almost no impact on either our domestic or the global climate. But I'd do it if I could do it at the click of my fingers. But we can't. It will cost an absolute fortune. It will bankrupt the economy to get there. And again, for no real discernible benefit. We're only 1% of all carbon emissions. That's going to continue to fall. But let's do it slowly, methodically, and through free market technology, not through government.
And again, people didn't abandon the horse and cart before the car was invented. This is that's the equivalent. That's right. This is the equivalent policy, right? We think there'll be a better technology. We haven't got it yet, But you're being banned from using your horse and cart. No,
Yeah,
people
that's right.
abandoned horse and carts because they were cars and they were better. And weirdly, you didn't have to have laws or taxes to persuade people to move to cars because they were better.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the other great story there is it's another great story about the unpredictability of technological breakthroughs. So
Yeah.
Henry Ford was fond of saying, if he'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, not a car. And he nevertheless invented a car. Nobody knew that transportation of human beings was going to move in that direction.
Well,
And then the car's invented and becomes mainstream quite quickly. And I suspect that energy technology will be rather similar. We don't know what's coming next.
I am, as my husband so lovingly points out, approaching my late 50s on a birthday tomorrow. Thanks, husband. And I can remember watching things like Tomorrow's World when we were absolutely convinced, but by this time we were going to be in the flying cars. So the whole thing has been a disappointment to me, but there we are. Look, let's talk about, there's been question marks about Ed Miliband's future because of net zero policy. Again, I don't know why people complain about Ed Miliband. It's Keir Starmer's policy, and it's the whole Labour Party, Liberal Democrats, Greens and Conservatives until about 3 minutes ago were all signed up to this. Reform Party, the only party not signed up to it for a long time. But question marks also about Rachel Reeves' future in government as well. And again, Prime Minister wouldn't confirm Ed Miliband would be staying in government. Latest question marks over Rachel Reeves, though, relate to an investigation by the sleaze watchdog. This is for the government. This is into her failure to declare Christmas theatre ticket freebies worth £276. The Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, Daniel Greenberg, has launched an official investigation over her failure to declare them on time. Now, I mean, this isn't the biggest area of sleaze in the world, but MPs are required to declare any freebies they get. But I think most people are just concerned about why is everyone offering all these MPs and these ministers so many freebies?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do something a little bit out of character here. I think I'm going to leap to the defence of Labour politicians.
I'm with you on this.
I mean, obviously, Rachel Reeves should have the staff be able to fill in the form properly. I mean, this is just pathetic.
Well, she didn't know her own CV, darling. So, I mean,
yeah, well, quite. But, I mean, someone somewhere should be able to actually get the form in on time. And it is important, I think, that MPs' expenses and treats are known in the public domain. But I have to say, unless we want our politicians to be even more detached from reality, I don't have a problem, per se, with a business or an interest group or a think tank or anybody else who wants to put their views forward saying, look, we'd really like to meet the Chancellor of the Exchequer or the Transport Secretary or the Energy Secretary. You know, how about coming along to this football match, this theatre event, this dinner with us, so we can, have a nice evening and a good chat? Are we really going to say that politicians shouldn't be able to do that?
Only the people who can offer a freebie and who've got the money to be able to do that are able to meet up with MPs. And
well, in that case, we're going to ban anybody ever taking an MP out for dinner, are we? Because not everyone can afford to take an MP out to dinner.
Yeah, fair
I think
point.
we've got to be pretty realistic about this. And I want MPs to meet businesses. Now, whether the theatre's the right way or a football match or the opera or just taking them out to dinner, I don't know. But I'm all in favour of that. I want access to politicians. The idea that they can never, be bought a cup of tea or a beer or be taken to the theatre or a football match without people screaming blue murder is mad.
Okay.
What they should do is to be able to report it properly on time.
Yeah, again, it shouldn't be too much. You say we'd like to think she had the staff to do that. Look, you're a keen Brexiteer, same as me. I'm just wondering what you think about the possibilities of getting a US-UK trade deal. We're told earlier this week, we were told by Seb Gorka, a senior advisor to the president, that we could be in the top 10 of countries. And obviously, countries like India and China are ahead of us in the queue in terms of much bigger trade dealers. But now we were told we could be in the top 10. Now we could be on the back burner. Been US concerns that this attempt to reset our relationship with the EU by Keir Starmer, realigning ourselves with EU rules, could actually block a pact with the US. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of it, really. Of course, in general, and certainly in recent weeks, everybody's been focusing on tariffs as a potential block to trade. But most of the problems really with trade are regulations. That, we ban your products over here because we think they're dangerous. You don't think our products over there are fit for purpose. It's usually a regulatory rule. So if you align yourselves with the EU in any way on regulations and sort of say, well, whatever new regulations come in from the EU, we'll abide by them, it makes a negotiation with the United States or indeed anyone else near impossible. Because rather than sitting down with the British regulatory rulebook and the American regulatory rulebook and saying, OK, what can we trade off? If you get rid of that one, we'll get rid of this one. You're locked in to the EU book, in which case the negotiations, I'm not going to say they can't get off the ground, but my God, they are hamstrung by right from the outset.
Yeah.
But I would say this in terms of the deal. I think we sometimes think as if two countries sit down and eventually, after a lot of blood, sweat and tears, produce a sort of 5,000-page document, which is the last word on trading relationships. Yeah. What you've actually got to do is to make incremental progress, one step at a time. I would like us to lower some tariffs on US products in return for them lowering tariffs on us. Yeah. Can we actually find a way in which our financial services industries can trade more easily, or our pharmaceutical industries? And you do one little bit at a time. You keep going back to the table and making small bits of progress, rather than having one gigantic document that sort of holds for the next 200 years. We've got to get a lot better at doing that. Countries like New Zealand and Singapore are great at it.
Well, we didn't have anyone
who gave away our trade policy for 50 years. We've lost our muscle memory on it.
Exactly, absolutely. We didn't have anyone able to do it. Just finally, I want to ask you about the latest madness of an asylum seeker in this country, given the right to stay here under the most spurious grounds by this. I mean, we're hearing so much about this upper tier tribunal of the Immigration and Asylum Chamber. I think we need to sack every single judge in this tribunal automatically. We rehire based on their record. But this is a Ghanaian asylum seeker, Winfred Kwabla Dogby. He arrived here on a visa back in April 2013. He claimed asylum, presumably when his visa ran out in 2016. It was refused. He then lodged submission after submission. He then got COVID in 2020. He did suffer very seriously, had multiple organ failure. He has now told a tribunal that he has experienced post-COVID-19 syndrome and PTSD, and he was part of a rehabilitation program that would not be available to him if he went back to his home country of Ghana, so he couldn't be sent home. And they have agreed with him and allowed to let him stay. I mean, basically, if we're going to allow anybody to stay in this country whose country doesn't have as good healthcare as us, I mean, we're looking at a couple of billion people who are going to come here, aren't we?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, what's extraordinary here is that everything this chap has said might be true, but it's not in any way germane to whether or not we should support him. Yeah, I would think the issue you've got to do is to have some pretty decent proof, or at least some pretty compelling evidence, if it falls short of proof, that if you were sent back, the government of your country would do real harm to you, that you could lose life.
Kill you, torture you, imprison you. Other than that, sorry.
The fact that their COVID-19 specialists aren't quite as good as the ones they've got used to in London or wherever they are, that may be true, but is an irrelevant consideration. So we need a much, much narrower definition. If we really think sending you back means we're sending you to your certain death or a certainty of torture or a great likelihood of it, fine. But if it's just that you prefer our healthcare system and you're a bit distressed about the one that you have back home, that might be true, but ain't our problem, ain't good enough, and should not be entertained by any immigration tribunal.
Absolutely. Mark Littlewood, Director of Public Conservatism. We covered a lot of ground there. Thank you very much. Philip Ingram, just on that case, the Ghanaian, we discussed it a bit earlier in the show, but these cases are coming thick and fast. It's usually some spurious right to a family life, right to privacy life, using under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Utter nonsense, not balancing the interests of the country, the home country, there, either our safety from criminals or indeed just our rights. Like, we're taxpayers, we pay for healthcare. I don't know why my taxes are paying for healthcare for some Ghanaian bloke who's got no right to be in the country with us since 2016. I don't know why he gets a single penny of my money.
Well, it shouldn't be in the same way that an Albanian criminal whose child doesn't like Albanian chicken nuggets as opposed to British chicken nuggets.
How does he even know?
Well, exactly. Well, because they go on holiday back home to Albania to come back here again.
Or the paedophile whose children would be seriously damaged by the fact that they wouldn't have him. I mean, I'm thinking...
When he's not allowed to see them anyway as part of his...
Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
But it's not this. These aren't one-offs, and we're often told, "Oh, come on, these are silly one-offs." They're not.
They're consistent.
They are
craziness.
Consistent. The problem isn't even if you actually read Article 8, which often these come under the European Convention on Human Rights. It's actually perfectly reasonable. You have a right to a family life, to a private life. Unless, I mean, it's got two paragraphs, and it's almost like these tribunal judges haven't read the second half.
Yeah. No,
the risk to other people, whether you are conducive to the public good. No, me paying for your healthcare is not conducive to the public good.
Well, it's complete madness, and maybe our ministers should be going out and having their meals with their judges and trying to educate them on what's good for the UK. Instead of going for theatre tickets or concert tickets or football boxes or getting free clothes.
Tell you what, a lot of my family are Arsenal fans. Trying to get to that Arsenal semi-final, the European Championship semi-final, Champions League semi-final. Very, very, very hard to get tickets for that. No, Keir Starmer guaranteed in the box every single time. Got to be a bonus to being PM.